Hi everyone, and welcome to another 10-minute-ish design leadership fireside Q&A hosted by myself, Andy Smith, the TDA Creative, the Design and Product Talent Agency. I'm delighted today to be joined by Jehan Moghazy, who was most recently the VP of Design for Experience Products and Platforms at Capital One. Jehan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Andy, so much for the opportunity to just chat with you. I love these conversations.
Cool. Well, look, we'll fire through some questions shortly, but before we do, you've got a super interesting background. I know you worked consultancy, you worked in-house, big RJ digital agency before Capital One. But it'd be great if you could give us a little lowdown on your career to date.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess you could say I've had an traditional slash non-traditional journey into design because I started out in computer science, and I actually always thought I was going to be a programmer and building new products and experiences. And it wasn't until the last year of my undergrad is when I discovered the field of HCI and UX and decided, okay, this is what I'm born to do, or this is what I really get excited about. And so I
Nice.
ended up doing my master's right after that and spent a career across both in-house tech companies, building software, and really sort of having that relationship with products from start to finish. And also getting exposure to consulting and agency life, which, has allowed me and had allowed me to just wear all the various hats of design from true pure user research and usability to information architecture to design, product design, UX, UI, you name it. So, and got to do that across so many different industries. So I think that was a really exciting time of my life. But I love being having an ownership and being able to see the end-to-end process of an experience and of a brand
Yeah.
and how
Okay.
it lives. Um, and so actually like midway through my career is when I really started craving, okay, yes, we're doing this, building this new product or this new feature, but why are we doing it? And what decisions or data went into us doing this thing? And I found myself really craving more of that strategy
Yep.
mindset. And so I went back and did my MBA, and that's when I sort of started moving more into customer experience strategy, product innovation world. And so my experience is kind of like across both product design, CX strategy, as well as product innovation. And so I kind of like move across all of those vectors.
Brilliant. And just out of interest, during your agency days, would you work focus on financial services or was that much broader spectrum of clients?
It was broad. I mean, one of the experiences that I just truly loved because it was a mix of physical and digital was a German coffee company who was trying to reinvent itself with the younger consumer audience and got to work and look across the design from not just the physical device, but also the digital experiences, the store experiences, and really looking at like the full brand ecosystem.
Okay.
Uh, so worked across consumer products, financial services, obviously health and life sciences. And I think there's something exciting about each of them, and you can always cross-pollinate some of the lessons and frameworks and
Brilliant.
design ideas across all of them.
Sounds like some early exposure to service design there with the German client.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. I love service design. I
Good.
love whenever I meet service designers on the team, I'm like, tell me more about what you're doing. Show me your stuff.
Love it. Okay. And the first question we're going to kick off, which I think is very interesting and prudent to a lot of design leaders, is how do you look to measure success for the design function within the wider organization? And kind of B to that is tips for design leaders on how to elevate design within these large organizations such as Capital One.
Yeah, I think when I think about like measuring success for a design function within an organization, I kind of think about it across three layers. The first layer is, are we driving the customer outcomes? Are we driving towards customer outcomes? Meaning, are we increasing customer satisfaction, increasing adoption, working on customer retention? Are we making sure that customers are staying engaged with the product? And I think it's really important to map the design decisions against some of these customer outcomes. in addition to the business outcomes or the impact that we have on the business. So really thinking about, do these design decisions that we're making actually unlock growth for the business? So are they driving efficiency? Are they driving increased revenue? Are they shortening onboarding flows, reducing drop off, driving conversion? These are all the things that I think a business really cares about. And when you think about how to elevate design within an organization, it's really like you have to make sure you speak the language of a business, framing the
Yeah.
design decisions against the impact that we can have against the business outcomes like revenue growth, retention, customer value. I think a third sort of that third layer is a little even more important than driving some of the core like revenue based outcomes or customer based outcomes, which is around like team health and maturity. So making sure that our designer is really growing in craft. Because if you don't have that, then you're not going to be able to do any of the additional impact work across the customer and the business. So are the designers growing in their craft? Do they have strong influence with their partners? Have they developed that cross-functional trust with
Yeah.
partners? And does design, is it operating as a strategic partner or is it operating as a service function? So I often say that success is when design is brought into the room early enough to help shape what we build. So informing the strategy, the vision, the product vision, the outcomes, and not just like how we build it. And we can leverage our superpower when we really think about like how to elevate design in that we have an opportunity to show a lot of the work versus telling. So our partners will often sort of put together requirements documents and strategy PRDs and so
Hmm.
it's like, well, what does that translate to? How does that how do you visualize that? And that's design superpower is being able to use bring the visual aspect to it, using vision, developing vision concept, developing prototypes, working on storytelling, being able to craft these really powerful, inspirational stories about the experience that you can use to sell across an organization and get stakeholders excited and on board. I think another superpower of design is being able to tell real customer stories in a way that translates back to the design so that stakeholders can kind of see the value and the purpose of the work that we're doing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of opportunity to really leverage some of those superpowers in storytelling, prototyping, concepts, concept design, and so forth. And I think one last thing that like is sort of like all sometimes happening in the background, but people don't necessarily talk about it too, is another way to elevate design within an organization is to help create leverage. So help allow things to happen more quickly and more efficiently. And that's investing in design systems, ensuring that you're adopting design systems so you reduce sort of that noise of arbitrary uniqueness across the experience and allow the team to actually innovate and do good, strong work within design. Investing in research operations to be consistent in how you're running research and making sure you're not double dipping on research participants,
Yeah.
things like that. And then obviously like storytelling, being able to leverage design to help tell the story of a product and the future North Star destination strategy of a product to get everyone aligned and on board. I think that those are the things that really sort of like elevate design within an organization and allow
Yeah.
partners to really see the true value and impact.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I love that. It definitely sounds like you focus heavily on those kind of bedrocks there, which allow to get close to stakeholders, allow to really show the proof of design and those measurable outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes it's so funny because people think design is the hardest, like, oh, coming up with a solution and designing the flows and how a customer is going to interact with it and what data do we need to ask them. But at the end of the day, the hardest part about product design and development is really getting people on board
Right.
and the
Okay.
relationships that you have to set and the alignment that you have to do.
Yep.
And often, the best way to do that is to tie it back to real customers and the stories that they're telling you. What is it going to do? What is this new feature or product going to do for the business? And being able to show it in action through prototypes and concepts. I think that's
Yeah.
kind of the best selling point internally to get everyone sort of on board and saying, yes, we're all aligned. Let's get this roadmap,
I like that.
executed. Yeah.
I think you've just answered some of our next question, which was, what's your approach to working with executive stakeholders, aligning
Yeah.
those design to business strategy? But it sounds like it's a
Yeah.
lot of that proof of concepts. It's the storytelling.
Yeah, I mean, like, I hate to like boil down the points of what how executives think and what they prioritize, but at the end of the day, there's really sort of like two things. Impact. They care about impact to the business, and they care about risk. And the key to a successful design leader is to translate design into both of those vectors, being able to bring the customer evidence. So, what research have you learned? What are the customer journeys that a customer has to go through to interact with this brand and or product? Showing prototypes and being able to tie that back to the business outcome, like how is it going to drive conversion, retention, efficiency? And I like to kind of frame design work as like strategic bets. So if we simplify this journey, then here's the upside in engagement, or here's the efficiency or cost savings that we're going to be unlocking. And being able to kind of position it in that way to get stakeholders seeing the process and seeing how some of the design decisions are getting us to the bottom line that they truly care about.
Yeah.
And I think if you just always position design as tied to the North Star metrics of the business,
Hmm.
then design will always be seen as like a true strategic partner rather than, a field that's kind of off on its own doing, this cool stuff, but we don't really know the value of it, type of
Yeah.
thing.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you. And look, staying closer to the actual design ecosystem itself, and I know you've led some very large design teams. Um, what's your thoughts on within the larger organizations, the centralized v decentralized model of design or hybrid model, the kind of pros and cons
Yeah. So over the years, I've kind of been in organizations that span that, and I will tell
and
you this,
shift?
yeah, and yeah, and it has shifted actually from centralized to decentralized and then back to centralized again.
Hmm.
Centralized has a lot of advantages because you are centralizing the design function into one unit and you create a lot of consistency amongst the designers. You create a strong culture on craft. What does it mean to be a product designer? What does it mean to be a service designer? What does it mean to be a user researcher? There's clear career paths for everybody. I think the cons is that if you're not integrated in the right way within an organization, you tend to be seen as a service agency rather than truly a product
Yeah.
and engineering partner or product development partner. And oftentimes it ends up, like they're slower to respond to product priorities, or we're slower to respond because we have our own priorities and they have their priorities. Versus a decentralized one, the pros are you designers are closer to the product teams and there's higher trust. People think that we're all on the same team, faster alignment. But then the con is that you end up having more fragmentation amongst your experiences because you don't have designers necessarily sort of learning and feeding off of each other
Mm,
and having a centralized set of design guidelines and standards. The culture of the team kind of gets diluted. Like there's something
yeah.
special about being a designer that you really have to nurture in terms of culture and craft. Um, so there's some
Yeah.
pretty significant cons there. In my experience, what I found to be probably the most successful is kind of like a hybrid model where you are centralized in terms of discipline, meaning that you are all coming together and you align against a series of design principles. You have design systems that you're using. You're learning from each other. You're still growing in terms of your career, and there's a strong sense of alignment against what good quality design is. But you're also embedded within your product team.
Yeah.
So in a sense, you're kind of like a dual citizen. You're a citizen of design, but you're also a citizen of your product squad that is inclusive of product and engineering.
Yeah.
Um, and so you're seen as a trusted partner there, and you can influence more locally and create coherence globally because you're part of a centralized design
Yeah.
team. So I find that those are the best, but it
Yep.
does require the brain to be like, okay, now I'm switching to my other nationality, which is
Yeah.
the product squad nationality, or I'm switching to the design nationality. We care about these things, and
Yeah.
yeah,
I think well, there's a strong tip for design leadership there and how to manage that, isn't there? Because I'm seeing that more and more across my clients, particularly the larger corporates, that hybrid model. And I think it gives designers the chance to really embed themselves in a product team, really get that end-to-end product, but know also they're not going to get lost in that product team forever. There's a design
Yes.
culture they're still part of. There's opportunity to move into other product teams to get more exposure to different parts of the business. Um,
Yeah.
but design leadership probably really comes to the fore there, doesn't it? To be able to control all of that, have design leaders sitting in product teams and keep that consistency.
Yeah, you're basic. I mean, like the one disadvantage, but it's really all about like how you manage stakeholders and like manage your time is that you do like get immersed in all of the meetings. Like you want to bring your design team together and celebrate, but you also want to celebrate with your product org. But what you're celebrating in the design part is maybe slightly different, more focused on the craft or the culture of the design org. So there's a little bit of nuance there, but I think it's totally doable and it's I'm seeing more and more organizations move into that direction of just being okay with that duality
Yeah,
aspect of it.
yeah, and some orgs, which I'm sure you've seen, when they do go from centralized to decentralized. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
very expensive change to make, and you lose a lot of
Yeah.
consistency. Cool.
Yes,
Well,
exactly.
that probably leads us quite nicely on to the next question. So, some key tips to building a design culture across a diverse team, design ecosystem.
Yeah. I think it's just a few things like as designers, you want first and foremost to be able to celebrate the craft and be able to have a singular view of what good quality design are is. So anchoring on some of the core design principles and values is the most important piece of creating that strong sense of culture. Like what does great design look like for you, for your org, and where is that bar of where good design is? And also being able to celebrate the design, the craft of design. So being able to do regular design reviews, involving our partners into those design reviews, having design showcases within the larger design org to be able to sort of show really strong work and have that get cross-pollinated across different teams and different product squads. And then being able to constantly think about like rituals that are going to make the design team stronger and more visible within the organization. I think that's kind of one thing.
Yeah,
Obviously, talent is another one, like being able to invest in growth. So having clear career paths for the team and being able to recognize strong work, having the ability to have that mentorship within the design org and scale the skills and expertise across the organization. So we're all getting better together and giving folks an opportunity to stretch. I think that's the power of a centralized design org is that you can
yeah,
kind of see where some folks might need a little bit of help, so you give them that opportunity to stretch and increase their visibility or stretch into a role that might not be necessarily the most comfortable for them.
yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and just, yeah, fostering inclusivity. I think that's kind of like the biggest thing too, is just making sure that people feel like their voices are heard. I think designers always have opinions, and you want to make sure that they are sharing their perspective and creating space where every voice is really heard in that design culture, I think is a really important aspect.
Thanks for that. Fantastic. And last question on a business sense anyway, and we won't go too high level here because it's a can of worms, but AI's impact on design as you're seeing it from perhaps the roles and skill sets within designers within the design ecosystem.
Yeah, this is like everyone keeps talking about like the role of design is moving, or it's getting destroyed. And I don't know. I definitely don't think that. I don't think AI is going to replace designers. I think it's going to elevate designers from being makers to being orchestrators, meaning
Yeah,
that the really big differentiators of design is what's the taste element, like that creative taste that you're going to bring together that only a human can really sort of bring. Um, and that empathetic connection with a product. Like there's so much power to be able to tell the story of a customer or a user that's experiencing a pain point and how this feature and design is going to enable that customer to alleviate their woes and be able to do their tasks much easier and more seamlessly. And I think that empathetic connection, as much as AI is going to be great at producing efficiency, it's not a human. There is that human
yeah,
element that is really missing. And I think that empathetic connection, as well as the storytelling and that purposeful design decisions that are tied to real people, real data, and having that judgment is really sort of going to replace or not replace designers, but going to elevate designers
Yeah.
within this new future. But I do think there's going to be some newish roles that are going to be emerging if they haven't already emerged yet. And I mean, in some organizations, we already have that, like AI interaction designers. Like right now, everyone seems to think AI interaction is all through chat-based experiences, but that's not necessarily, going to be the end all be all or conversational. But you're still going to need that. You're going to need designers who are thinking about conversational, multimodal flow experiences. But you're also going to need designers who are thinking about non-chat based interfaces. I've been watching some videos around Cove, which is sort of like a drag and drop workspace, AI workspace tool that is like, if you remember seeing like Tom Cruise or, those Matrix like movies where it's like the big screen and they're dropping things here and that impacts this. And,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think there's going to be another, movement of design that's focused on more workspace
Yeah.
AI design, which will be really cool, along with like the designers for the data models, the designers for prompt engineering, and model-based designers. So I think there's going to be more systems-based design thinking that's going to be coming into place. And so designers will probably still have to be focused on like the visual and the pixels, but also really thinking about how are they orchestrating some of the underlying AI behaviors in the models and the systems.
Yeah.
I think that's going to sort of elevate as new skills that are going to be emerging for designers in the industry. But yeah, I mean, everything's shifting. Every few weeks there's a new tool, and I'm
There
like,
is. But look, change equals opportunity, right? That's for sure.
exactly, exactly.
Okay, that's fantastic. Well, look, I really enjoyed the chat. Very insightful. Um, love to finish on this a little more personal question. Can you tell us something that few people know about you, Jehan?
Well, people that I've worked with already sort of know this, and I've gotten pressured into revealing the skill. But I love music and I love singing, and
Okay.
I actually sang with an up and coming artist at one point in my career. I took vocal lessons, so I love doing karaoke with my teams, and so
Okay.
yeah, like so I will sing all day, every day. I love Broadway. I love musicals. I love all that stuff. Yeah.
Ah, that's great to know. That's great. And any particular music that takes your fancy when you get that karaoke machine?
Anything R&B and soul.
Oh, okay.
It's my favorite. Yeah. That's like my go-to.
Love it. Okay. Well, look, when we hopefully get together next time, we know what we can do, but you'll put me to shame, that's for sure. Um,
No. Like,
that's great.
any good karaoke device has the auto tune. Everyone sounds awesome.
Oh, I thought it was something to do with alcohol. Okay, that's good to know. Gee, and okay, thanks so much for your time. Really enjoyed the chat.
Awesome.
Look forward to seeing you on future TDA events and maybe over that karaoke machine one day as well.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Andy.
Thanks so much. Chat to you again soon.
Okay, bye.